different challenge coins of every unit in the department.
We met with the commissioner inside his office, and right out the gate, he teed off against his critics.
So the great fears that were generated in large part by the media and by the political establishment, a new mayor coming in, 2014, Armageddon, the sky's going to fall, city's going to go to hell in a handbasket. Sorry, didn't happen, and it's not going to happen. We're not going back to the bad old days, so let's get over it and just stop trying to tear the city down. Let's start celebrating the success of this city. Greatest city in the world, 8.5 million people. It is a city that works. So instead of tearing it apart all the time, let's start taking a look at just how good this place is. Do we have our faults? We certainly do. Do we have our faults in this department? We certainly do. But by and large, we're doing pretty well.
Good news for you and this region in terms of crime is down. The good news. But the perception in the city of New York, the perception on Long Island, the perception in the Hudson Valley, the perception is just the opposite, Commissioner.
Perception is driven by a number of things. One, what people might see in their particular neighborhood. Two, what they see in the news, your medium. Or three, what they read in the papers. Perfect example of that is this morning's New York Post editorial. If you read the New York Post editorial, the sky is falling, Armageddon has arrived in New York. Even as they talk about crime being down 5.8% over the last 2 years, and crime being down for the last 25 years, every year for 25 years. The Daily News editorial, they talk about how safe New York and celebrate. The sun is out, all is well in New York, and it's getting better all the time. So there's an example of perspective being driven by newspaper bias, newspaper reporting of the issue. How do you argue against the fact that overall crime in the city is down by 75%, homicides are down by 81% since the early 1990s. We had 105,000 reported crimes last year versus the 500,000 or 600,000 reported crimes in the early 1990s each year. I'm sorry, this is America's safest large city. Individuals might have their perception of it, but this is America's safest large city. And I know it bothers some people and bothers some newspapers and bothers some media types, some political types, but the city keeps getting safer. Surprise, surprise.
But there are some upticks, Commissioner, as you said yourself. In terms of rape is up, I believe, 6%?
That's correct. That rape was up, robbery was up 2%, homicides are up. But once again, let's take it into context. Rape, a significant part of that increase in rape was due to late reports. People coming forward to report rapes that in some instances had occurred many years before. Every rape is of concern. We encourage people to report the rape so we can get the serial rapists, that we can effectively try to reduce it. Robberies up 2%, a couple of hundred incidents. In terms of murders are up by, I think, a total of 17 murders in a city of 8.5 million people. 350 murders back in 1990. We had 2,243 murders. So crime spikes from time to time. When it spikes, we put additional resources on it. We attempt to determine what's happening with it. Case in point, on the issue of rapes, we had seen an uptick in rape incidents involving women, young women coming out of bars, highly intoxicated, getting into taxis, yellow and green, getting into livery cabs, and then being assaulted in their totally intoxicated state by those drivers. Those reports are important to us because then it prevents those drivers from doing it again if we can make the arrest. But one of the ways to prevent that is the idea that buddy system. We have designated drivers. 3 of you drink, 1 drives, doesn't drink. Similarly, that if you're going to drink yourself into a state of total intoxication, well, have somebody take you home, go home with you, so you don't effectively put yourself in a situation of vulnerability. So, ironically, when we raised that issue, one of the media outlets in town basically criticized us for that.
They said you were blaming the victim.
We're not blaming the victim. What we're trying to do is assist the victim or future victims by basically, it's a crime prevention tip. We basically tell people, if you're going to drink, don't drive. Use a designated driver. If you're going to drink yourself into total intoxication and put yourself in a vulnerable position, then try to prevent that vulnerability from turning into something more significant, such as a rape.
The former police commissioner, Ray Kelly, has accused you, Commissioner, of cooking the books.
I think we made our reaction quite clear. The former commissioner's comments were based on a source, as he related from within the department. If I were him, I would basically not be talking to that source any longer, because quite obviously the source gave him bum information. What the commissioner was speaking to was specifically the reporting of shooting incidents. And we created in 1994, and as commissioner the last time, a description of what constitutes a shooting incident within our larger aggravated assault category. That definition has not changed since 1994. It was used by Commissioner Safer, by Commissioner Carrick. It was used for 12 years by Commissioner Kelly, and it's been used by me for the last 2 years. Not one word of that definition has changed. So again, if I were Commissioner Kelly, I'd be very careful about my sources in the future, because this source really got him burned.